Okay, so we shall now go into one mitzvah, because we remember last class we spoke about the nature of mitzvah, why they're so detailed. So I want to basically, I chose a mitzvah to focus in on, which is body related and soul related. That's really what we want to discuss. So, I mean, all mitzvah really are, but this one is like very, very apparent that it's both come together, and it's also a very tricky mitzvah. We'll go through the ideas, then we'll discuss some of the laws that go with it. The mitzvah of kosher. Kosher. Just interestingly, is kosher mitzvahs aseh or lo taseh? An aseh or lo taseh? What would you say? You got to know that. Aseh is the mitzvah you're meant to do, which we have 248. Lo taseh mitzvah you're not allowed to do, which is 365. That was last class. You knew this. So it's actually a lo taseh, right? It's a lo taseh. You shall not eat non-kosher foods, and list the various animals, which we're going to go through today, and the various birds, various insects, and the like, and mixtures of certain foods we're allowed to eat. So you can't eat those foods. So it's not an aseh. All you're left with is kosher food, right? Yes. It does. You're absolutely right. Right? It says you should not eat a food that doesn't have these two simanim, these two signs. You're absolutely right. But it's not a mitzvah aseh. That's kosher food. You can't eat these foods that don't have these signs. Okay?
The mitzvah itself is lo tochal.
That's right. Law. It's done in the negative. That's correct. That's right. Now the weird thing is that kosher is considered to be a chok. It is a statute like we discussed last class. It is a statute. Not a statue, but a statute. And yet, we're going to try to find reasons why. Now to do that, we're going to visit some of the Kabbalists, actually. What is the reason, however, given in the Torah for keeping kosher? What is the reason the Torah tells us to keep kosher? Anyone know? Because we are an kadosh. We're a holy people. That's what the Pasuk tells us. You're an kadosh. You are a holy nation. Therefore, do not eat these various foods. Now, eating is one of the few things that we do, or that we have a choice in doing, that actually keeps us alive. It connects body and soul. Okay? It connects body and soul. You can get away with not drinking any alcohol, right? Not having, marital intimacy, right? And other physical pleasures, but eating is one of the few things that you don't do, you die. And pretty quickly. Okay? So this thing of, could you close the door, please? This thing of keeping kosher is going to connect body and soul. And because of this, ladies, we're going to see as well that a lot of the ideas of kosher and kashrut, we'll see later on, are connected to the original eating. The original eating. What's the original eating? Where do we see eating happen very early in the Torah? In Gan Eden, eating the Eitz Hadas. So we'll see that Rav Tzadok is going to tell us that the whole thing of kosher is actually a tikkun, is a fix-up for the original forbidden eating in the Garden of Eden, in Gan Eden, right? When Chava persuaded, that's my last class, so I was talking Sarah, now backwards. Eating from the Eitz Hadas, and the ate, so there was a tikkun that needs to happen for that. Let's have a look at what the Gemara and the Mefarshim have to say about this mitzvah, and it's pretty unusual stuff. Okay. We'll start with the Kli Yakar. And the Kli Yakar on this Pesukim talks about it. And he says like this. Melamed, she'enine malachot asurot lebriot haguf. Eating kosher food has nothing to do with health. It is possible that you could eat kosher food your entire life and be extremely unhealthy. You could eat non-kosher food and be very healthy. Okay. We discussed the Rambam's directives on this. The Rambam told us to eat healthy food. Right? So we have two obligations. Eat kosher, healthy food. I believe the Rambam were to walk into a kosher supermarket today, he would look around the shelves and be like, it's kosher, forbidden to eat it. Right? The amounts of sugars and fats and all the other unhealthy products that are existent in food. However, kosher has nothing to do with health. Okay? And no one says so. Okay? And that, we said, was one of the dangers of looking for rationales for various mitzvahs, specifically kosher. People say, well, you can't eat pig because pigs have trichinosis, they're dirty animals, right? Lobsters are bottom feeders, right? Bottom of the ocean, disgusting creatures. And we say that's not the reason. That may be a benefit that goes with the mitzvah, but benefits come and go. As society changes, food changes, people change, that is not a reason why. Okay, it's not a reason for the mitzvah. Okay, so looking for a health benefit of kosher, you've been looking a long time because it does not work, and that's what the Kli Yakar, that's what everyone says. Okay, and he says, "Shahayeh umat ochlim briim." We see many people who are non-Jewish nations, they don't have the mitzvah of kosher. He says, who eat and are very healthy. Ella kavanatam rufot haneshama. Kosher is a soul thing. It's going to affect the neshama. It's going to affect the soul. As I like to call this class when I give it elsewhere, kosher, the real soul food. Okay? Somehow it's going to affect the neshama of a Jewish person by eating these various foods. Kim, right? Megarshim ruach tahara kedusha. Right? You are affecting the holy soul that was given to you. God gave us a holy soul. Okay? This soul has a mission. And these various foods, which are not kosher, are going to affect the soul. We're actually going to see in a few moments how. It's pretty unusual. There's going to be, according to many commentators, especially the Ramban, there's going to be a telling trait among pretty much all non-kosher foods, non-kosher animals. You'll see one trait, for the most part, that connects all non-kosher animals. Back to that in a second. Umolidim atimat hasechel v'achzariut. Eating non-kosher foods with the Jewish neshama is going to, now I want to define this word for you, blocks up your mind and makes you cruel. Okay, now I have to define what that means. Okay, he's saying it for a reason. It's somehow going to block you up, okay, in a soul way. That's why it was specifically for the Jewish people and not other nations. Because the Jewish people have chelek olam haba, a guaranteed chelek olam haba, and this food is going to help them enter into olam haba. They have no reason to keep kosher. They want to keep kosher, they can. Right? I've heard people work in the kosher industry. Many people eat kosher food thinking it's healthy. Right? So you have a lot of non-kosher, non-Jewish people who eat kosher food because, it must be healthy. Got some bad. Don't tell anyone. Keep it a secret, but there's no connection. I mean, that's not fair. That's not fair. There are some laws which may help out. For example, we have the laws of treif, right? Where we know that an animal that has various blemishes and broken bones, whatever, before they're shechted, right, may not be eaten. So we usually eat the younger animals. Okay, they're not left, because the more they're left out, the more they get damaged and will not be kosher, which is bad for the kosher industry. So various animals that are older animals may have certain diseases they pick up, or may eat bad foods more of their lives. So that may help out. But once again, that's not a reason for the mitzvah, but it may be a benefit. And we discussed that distinction before. Right? Every mitzvah has a reason and a benefit. Just like an orange has taste, right, and has vitamins that go with it. It's good for you. Okay? If I were to remove the taste, bless you, if I were to remove the taste from an orange, would it be worth eating that orange? Yes, it would be. It's still good for you. It's like eating a vitamin. It doesn't taste better, but it gives you the vitamin C, It's still good for you. Same thing, a mitzvah has a reason and benefit. The reason, if you will, is the reason we do it. That's why you do it, because it's good for you. There's the benefit that comes with it. Okay? Benefit that comes with it. Keeping Shabbat, calms you down and makes you feel good. That's not the reason for Shabbat, but it's a benefit that comes with it. Well, we don't discard the benefit, but it's not the reason why we keep Shabbat. Which means if you find a situation where keeping Shabbat is still stressful, you still have to do it. You know what I'm saying with this? That's the way it works. Where is the Kli Yakar getting this from? Let's look at a Gemara in Yoma that says that eating non-kosher food desensitizes a person spiritually, a Jewish person. Tana de Beliyahu, Rabbi Yishmael, it was taught to the school of Rabbi Yishmael, Aveira mitmatemet libo shel adam. Sin blocks up a person's heart. Heart means your emotions. Shneimar, v'lo titma'u behem. Don't contaminate yourself through eating these shratzim, these forbidden animals. Al tikri v'nit metem, ella v'nit matem, which means, basically taking the word for tameh, which means impure, and the Gemara is playing a word play, taking the aleph out, and the same word of tameh, right? Tameh becomes nitmetem, which means blocked up. So if you remove the aleph from tameh, follow carefully, we'll see why the aleph has to go, right? Tumah, by eating non-kosher foods, you become blocked up. It's spiritually blocking you. Non-kosher foods spiritually block you. I'll tell you a very interesting story, if you remind me later, about the Ramban and the famous question from the Yemenites that came to him. Because the Ramban was the rabbi for the Yemenite community. Actually, the Yemenites love the Ramban. They follow him la halacha. Are you aware of this, right? He saved them. There were various letters that the Rambam sent to them, and he sent people to them and sent ideas to them. To this day, the Yemenites, any Yemenite, any Temanim here? Anyone of Temani descent? You are? Amazing. Both sides, your father, your mother? Just your mother. Good, that means you get to eat the good food. The Temani food. Let me ask you a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this. In your mother's house, are your grandparents alive, your mother's parents?
Yeah.
Do they, ever there for Shabbat?
Are they what?
Are you ever there for Shabbat?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen them wash their hands before Hamotzi?
Honestly, they have the most religious.
Okay, fine. Their parents were. I promise you. Alright? Their parents were. That's the way it was. Let me tell you what they used to do, your mother's grandparents or great-grandparents. When they wash their hands like we do. And then what do we do before we eat bread? We don't talk. We don't talk. It's called Hesach Hadat. It makes a separation. You make mitama your hands again, we don't talk. That is everyone's opinion except the Rambam. The Rambam says, keep talking. Whatever you want to do, not just stuff that's in, but you keep talking. Right? Now we don't follow the Rambam, we follow the Shulchan Aruch, it does not pass by the Rambam. But the Yemenites are so obsessed with the Rambam, so much that they follow him la halacha, and it was they'll talk. I went to a rabbi, Rabbi Sharabi in Eretz Israel. Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah, my brother-in-law is Yemenite.
He's Yemenite, and that's what they go. They'll wash. You cannot talk, and they'll say to you, you can't talk, but I can talk. They'll be schmoozing around. They follow la halacha. I'll tell you a fascinating story as to why the Yemenites built up such a love for the Rambam, and it's related to this, interestingly enough. Okay, but let's just roll back for a second. I went too far out. Says the Gemara, the Torah says, don't eat these foods, they are tameh, they are impure. The Gemara says, you know what? The word impure, if you take away the aleph, also spells the word nitamtem. Nitamtem, it blocks you up by taking the aleph out. Somehow eating non-kosher foods blocks your emotional and spiritual ability. Okay? We'll see why, a possible reason why in a second. Okay? Says the Ramban, this is very strong wording. Lo ta'achal kol toeva, the Torah tells us. Don't eat a toeva. That's a very strong word. That's for like really bad stuff. Hine ratza lo siv bior hamalachim asurim. Right? Therefore it says, do not eat anything disgusting. Lo ta'achal kol toeva. Lahagid kol hanesar v'te'evin nefesh hatahara. It's disgusting, not for your body, says the Ramban. When the Torah says it's toeva, it's disgusting for your soul. Your soul is being negatively affected by these foods. Your soul is being blocked up somehow by eating these negative foods. Why? Why is it? Look at this unbelievable Ramban on the next page. The Ramban says, and once again, this is a chok. This is one with no reason. It's a statute, God bless you. And yet we're giving it reasonings and rationale. Says the Ramban, phones away please. Says the Ramban, I'll tell you. You'll notice that non-kosher foods have the following common trait. What is that? For the most part, they are the predator. Right? Lions, tigers, eagles, owls. For the most part, they're the predator. The animals that we eat, for the most part, are prey. Right? They're preyed upon. Right? Sheep and chickens and beef and cows. Yeah? For the most part. Okay? And he says the Ramban, in Torah Hashem Tamima. He says, Kashaya Danu, we know, Kia Ofot, Ha'asurin, those birds, right, there's a list of 24 birds that are forbidden. Kulan Dorsin, they're all birds of prey. That's P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y, they're not davening, right? They are attacking creatures, right? And he says, except for a couple of them, right? The Paraspas. We're not too sure, actually, for the most part, mostly what these birds are that are forbidden, okay? When it comes to bird eating, we'll see in a few moments, it comes down to Masorah tradition. Right now, I don't know if you're aware, right now there is a happening right now, massive battle within the Jewish world about the chickens that we're eating. Two groups in the Orthodox world are saying that the others are eating non-kosher chickens. They're saying because the kosher chickens have been mixed up with non-kosher animals, non-kosher birds, okay, and therefore the other one is saying, no. The chickens we've been eating for a long time are the real chickens, okay? There's a lot written on this, and there's like a big, and these other people say, no, the real chicken is this one called the Breckel chicken, whatever. I was reading into it recently. It's all about, because there's no really defining trait when it comes to birds. It's about what's the tradition of a bird. When the Jews came to America, many Jews, they found a new bird here that didn't exist in the old country. And there was a discussion back then whether that bird was kosher. Anyone know what bird that was? Turkey. The turkey was a big discussion of turkey's kosher. Everyone says they're kosher. Every Kashrut agency will give a Kashrut say kosher because they had to find a Masorah. Other communities, we had these turkeys, right? Or it's close. So let's do that right now. The Ramban is saying that there's a list of birds that are not kosher. He says you'll find a commonality among them, except a couple of them, which is not too sure what a couple of them are for this point. Okay? He says you'll notice that all of them are birds of prey. They attack. They're dores, right? They attack. They hurt. They attack. They eat other animals and they attack. They're a predator. That's what a predator means, right? He says, therefore, they have inside them this trait of cruelty. That doesn't mean they're bad, just they have this trait of cruelty. That's just what they are. Somehow, by us ingesting their flesh, these animals, somehow, on some level, in a spiritual way, it's going to affect us. The Ramban does say elsewhere that it's actually going to affect, because the body is all together, it may affect the body as well. He does say that there may be a health aspect to it, but it's through the soul that this happens. This is not such a weird idea to us nowadays. We know that food is going to affect a person's personality, right? I mean, give my kids too much sugar and you'll start to see that as well, right? But this idea happens to be true, and that's what he says. Therefore, he says, eating their flesh and their blood, damam basara, molid achzarit, will make you cruel. It's going to block up your spiritual somehow, something, and make you a cruel person. Benefesh v'Yisrael, and the Jewish people, shenstavu liot rachamim, are commanded to be merciful. By eating these non-kosher foods, it takes away from that trait. Right? V'avim zelazeh, we have to love each other and be merciful to each other. Roihu lasilhem, and therefore he says, forbid them. So he's done something really wild. He's done something very wild. The Ramban has actually given us like a Kabbalistic reason. But still, we consider Kashrut to be a hoax. It could be that on a Peshat level, there's no rationale. This is like on a soul level, so we don't fully understand it. Maybe that's what's going on over here. Yeah. Very, very good. I wouldn't say you are what you eat, because I'm not a big fat cow. However, you can say what you eat becomes who you are. Hear the difference? You can't say you are what you eat, because I'm not a chicken. Right? But what you eat becomes who you are. That's what he's saying. That's what seemingly the Ramban, very, very difficult Ramban, we just did a cursory understanding, but he's saying somehow you'll notice that as well. Right? Now, this may not, he didn't say this is the rule, this is the rationale, because if he said this is the rationale, what would you do? I'll find an animal that's really nice and sweet and fluffy, that doesn't have a various simanim, I'll eat it, it's okay. So this cannot be the rationale for the mitzvah, but it could be a benefit. It could be a benefit. By the way, we render animals, even kosher animals, non-kosher, by how we kill them as well. Nachon? If you were to kill an animal, you were to shoot an animal in the head, it's a very kosher cow, very kosher chicken, you can't eat it. It has to go through shchita. Not only that, the knife that is used to kill an animal has to be extremely sharp. It can't have any notches or nicks. that will bring pain. You to use a knife that is, if you were to draw, that's why the shochet draws his thumbnail over the blade to make sure that it is very, very, very smooth. I'll tell you the story of the Ramban. Now we have this information, you'll appreciate the story of the Ramban. The story goes the Yemenite Jews were having a lot of kids going off the derech, which back then, or now it's unfortunately in the Jewish world standard, back then it was very, very unusual. Listen very carefully, it's an amazing story. So they said, our kids, and now the Yemenites traditionally were very religious. Hey Garrett, what's your name back there? You're too far away. What's your name? Libby?
Yeah.
Libby, your Safta, your grandmother was Yemenite, right? Your mother's side? Sama's Yemenite, right? I'm telling you, his father and his parents, their parents, were like rabbis. They're always, oh, by the way, every Sephardi, their grandparents, oh, great rabbi of the town. I always hear this, right? Any Moroccan. So, you're not very religious now. Are you religious? No, I'm not religious. No, not at all. My grandfather, he was the rabbi of Morocco. And it's always like the rabbi of Morocco or Persia. Oh, yeah, he was the mullah over there, you know. It was always the rabbi over there. Absolutely, absolutely. Kids becoming, it just was unheard. They were very, very religious, right? They entered the Israel, unfortunately, where they were forced, unfortunately, into becoming religious, sadly. In many cases, the kids were taken away from them, Rahman Aslan, another story enough for now. And whatever, they secularized. But back then they didn't. So the Rambam was asked this question. The Rambam answered and said, check the shochet's knife. Check the knife of the shochet, of the ritual slaughterer. You hear? So they're like, I said, our kids are having trouble when it comes to their religious observance. He's like, yeah, check the knife of the shochet. And they did. And they found out that unintentionally, shochet's knife was nicked, rendering the animal, the chicken, and the beef, non-kosher. And they fixed that, and the kids started to come back. And said, why is that? He said, I'll tell you why. Because we're an kadosh. And eating non-kosher food takes us away from the kedusha. And therefore that's going to impact the soul of these kids. And therefore we could be, one of the reasons we see, he says, I'm not saying it today, but it could be that one of the reasons we see many kids going off is that not now, there's many other reasons as well. But non-kosher food doesn't help. Right? Kosher food impacts your neshama, impacts your midot. How? I can't say. But the character trait is affected by what you put into your body. Right? And that is one of the benefits. I won't call it a rationale, one of the benefits of eating kosher food. Yeah.
So what about why wouldn't horses and rabbits be kosher then? Because they're not carnivores, they don't have
the Ramban does say there's not a general rule. He does say there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, there's a trait inside these creatures, right? Now, what's interesting is that dogs are considered to be the most loving animals, right? Kelev, kol lev, all heart. Yet we don't eat dog either. Okay, so this isn't the rationale behind it. He's looking for a unifying trait that connects them. Something about a horse, something about a dog we don't. Now, actually, in Jewish law, we respect dogs more than any other animal, right? Tishlachul kelev, they take leftover korbanot thrown to them, right? Remember, because dogs didn't bark when we left Mitzrayim. Kelev lo yichris l'shono, so we reward the dog. So dogs have positive traits, right? And some non-kosher birds also have positive traits. But even so, somehow something in that animal that we don't want inside the human. Yeah.
We get the whole merciful thing from the Kosher that says don't eat milk and the mother, don't serve meat in the mother.
Well, that's what we're going to learn. That's what we're going to learn. Idea the Ramban's going to say. There we see that is a cruel thing to do. I'm going to include all meat and all milk into that as well. All kosher milk and all kosher meat together as well. Non-kosher and non-kosher milk, and when they mix together, it could be Rabbanan, as well as non-kosher. But yeah, and that's going to be the most chamor thing. The Ramban seems to go along with that idea as well, that is a cruel thing to do, and eating somehow is a test of cruelty. Yes. But once again, it's not a reason.
The duration of mixing meat and dairy is Rabbanan.
It's exactly over here. No, it's Doraita. Absolutely Doraita. Non-kosher. What?
No, the duration of waiting.
Oh, we're going to get to that today. We're going to do all that today. V'tam. What is the reason? Ki kadosh atah l'shem. What does the Torah say? For you are a holy nation to God. That's you have to keep kosher. Davak im lotov shel gedi, and there it connects. Exactly what you were saying. What's your name again?
Ariel.
Is that what it says? Lotov shel gedi b'chalavimo. Don't eat a kid in his mother's milk. Ki einenu machal nitaev. This is not because it's disgusting food. There's nothing disgusting about a cheeseburger. There's nothing disgusting about chicken parm. Well, that's the Rabbanan actually, because chicken biblically is not considered meat. Rabbinically it is. Okay? But it's not considered disgusting food. Right? He says nothing to do with that. Ol liyoto kedushim. Rather, it's because we have to be holy. Shlo niyeh am achzari. Exactly what you were saying. Lo yirachamu. Right? You're going to milk the mother and then kill it and then use it. It's disgusting. You're going to cook the child together with it. Right? So the Torah gives that's an example. So the Ramban, we're going to include, he says, all animals are called the child, and it's always going to be cruel, and therefore we don't do it. Exactly, you are machav in the Ramban. Well done. Well done. Says Rav Tzadok, page 37, the observance of kosher goes way beyond what we see in front of us today. He says, Kadosh ma'achalim kol Torah. The observance of the laws of Kashrut encompass all the other laws of the Torah. Right? That's why before bar mitzvah or bar mitzvah, you have to keep the laws of the Torah, but we keep kosher for the kids. We keep kosher with the kids because we want the kids to be brought up the right way. It's going to affect them in some way. Therefore, we try to we give kids kosher food. Right? From as early as possible, we give kids kosher food. Okay, waiting between meat and milk, right? When they're very, very young and they're unaware, you don't have to wait that long. When they become aware, you start a little bit and you build up. Right? But we don't give them meat and milk together. Even that we don't do. Yeah?
But chicken doesn't even produce milk. So I don't know why
Right. So chicken is rabbinically, but we include that. We include chicken because even today, strange enough, right? We put chicken together with meat. Every supermarket puts chicken and meat together and fish elsewhere, right? And that could well be the slippery slope argument. The Gemara says there was Rabbi Yosley Glili who considered chicken to be parov. Okay, we do not go with that. We do not follow that. Rabbinically, we give chicken the same status as meat, and we wait the same amount of time. For all things, chicken, according to us Jewish people, is considered to be like beef. We do not separate it.
And where did the prohibition come from of like some people don't eat fish?
That's something else. Fish and meat is not to do with this. That's sakana. That's sakana. Somehow there's something unhealthy, physically unhealthy about fish and meat together.
And people don't do fish and dairy.
Now, fish and dairy, that's another thing. Some Sephardim, the Shulchan Aruch says in one place, fish and milk. Some people say that's dafka milk. They won't have fish. Some say no, it includes all derivatives of milk. So many Sephardim cover that. Some say it's a taut sofer. It's actually a mistake in the. So Ashkenazim do not follow that. And take away the cream cheese and lox from Ashkenazim, they'll kill you. So don't mess with that. But some Sephardim do follow the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, when he says that. Okay, let's go back to Gan Eden where we started, which is also one of the reasons we did it this semester. In the Gan Eden, the snake was only able to entice Adam and Chava to eat these forbidden foods from the Eitz Hadat, right, Tov Ra, the tree of good and evil. Someone who is careful about eating only kosher foods and imbuing them with Kedusha keeps all the mitzvah of the Torah. Right? It's interesting, you know. How do we define an observant Jew today? We say kosher and Shabbat. Kosher and Shabbat. We don't say is that person a sukkah dweller, a matzah eater. You know, we say is that person Shabbat, right? A shofar listener. Right? We say that's the way it is. Okay? Why? And he says this very carefully. He says, make no mistake. And this is, I think, going to help you understand something very, very careful and deep. Notice that food and the Yetzer Hara are together. Right? The Nachash came to test Adam and Chava with food. Therefore, food is going to involve the Yetzer Hara. Not only kosher and non-kosher, but how much you eat, what you think about what you eat. And your relationship to food is going to affect your neshama, it's going to affect who you are as a person. He says that's why the Yetzer Hara can only rule over a person through their eating and drinking. Right? We include drinking this as well. Right? So he says it's not just a kosher thing. Our relationship to food is a very, very, especially as Jews, it's a very complicated relationship. And spiritually, how we relate to food is going to be involved with the Yetzer Hara. Right? We have Yetzer Hara for food. We don't have Yetzer Hara for breathing too much. Like, are you over breathing today? You know? But we have Yetzer Hara for how much we eat. And our relationship to food is is going to define our spiritual essence as well. Okay? Somehow, a sign of, I believe, right, spiritual, right, is how we eat. Your relationship to food is going to impact you in a very, very great way. Yeah. That's not me. You see from the Gan Eden, Yetzirah and food are connected. Yeah.
So like here we keep talking about like why keeping kosher is important, but there's no actual reason. Like, because the only thing we have is the rationale about the pleasure and prey.
But that's not a rationale. That's like it's an understanding. That can't be the rationale because again, there's exceptions to that rule. You can't give a rationale.
There are other like.
I think the reason it's called a hoax, this is my opinion, and I've heard some other great people. The reason is because food is affecting your neshama. There's no rationale for the neshama. You can say give tzedakah, make you a nicer person. You know what I'm saying? It'll affect you. But this.
Why are certain things considered kosher and not?
So we're saying there's no rationale. Let's just run through the laws of Kashrut since we're together and figure out a few ideas. Okay? So, what makes an animal kosher? You should know this, but most of you know this already, but it's good. You need to have two simanim, two signs. Okay? There are two simanim, right? They go with a animal. What are the simanim? Malagera has to chew the cud. You okay? You're not choking in my class on kosher, are you?
No.
Good, thank you so much. What? Oh, it's easy. Before Shalema. Very good. Let me just true. Simanim. What are the two simanim? Malagera. They have to chew the cud. Right? And they have to have a split hoof. This is for an animal. For an animal. Right? Malagera. Right? Mafrasa parsa. Total split. Total split. Right? And shesa. The total split. Why? Are there certain animals that have a partial split and not a full split? Camels, correct. The camel has a partial split on top, but it's got a webbing on the bottom, which helps them, schlep around the desert. Okay? So it can be example, right? Are there animals that have a split tooth, but do not chew the cud? An animal that has a split tooth, but does not chew the cud.
Yeah, pig.
Pig, nachon, a chazir. The chazir, right, the pig, it is the only animal, the Torah says, by the way, interesting enough, it's the only animal that's going to have that trait. Now we're going to see there are animals and creatures that are worse to eat than pig. Face front, please. Are worse to eat. Hello? Face the front. There are animals that are worse to eat, but we don't like the pig. Why do we pick on the pig so much? Why do we pick on the pig? This is actually important information when we get to Mashiach. Why do we not like the pig? It's a liar. It says deceptive. It's like, look at me. I'm kosher. I've got a split tooth, but inside you're not chewing the cud. The only animal that does that. We don't like that. We want your tocha kabara. We want your inside but like your outside. Outside like your inside. We want it to be the same. Okay, we're going to see that one of the galuts, Jewish people, when we get to Mashiach, is called pig. On the outside they look like a kosher society, but inside they're very, very bad people. Okay, they are compared to the chazir. Interestingly, the word chazir also means lachzor, to return. So some say that pig will eventually become kosher, which personally I'm looking forward to.
You are?
Yeah, I want to eat ham. Why don't I eat non-kosher? What does Rav Gamliel in the Gemara say? You ever walk around and say, ugh, that looks so disgusting, I wouldn't eat that. You're not allowed to say that, he says. You don't say it's disgusting. You say, I don't eat it because Hashem says so. Actually, it looks delicious. I'm just not allowed to eat it. Right? And by the way, you shouldn't say that, because if you see a non-kosher food that doesn't look disgusting, then it's going to be okay. The reason, says Gamliel, to say we don't eat kosher food is because that looks delicious. I'm just not allowed to eat it because Hashem says so. It's a chok. Why? I'm not too sure. I don't eat it. Okay? But if it were to one, now some say the pig that becomes kosher isn't the actual pig itself. It's the nation represented by the pig that's going to do teshuvah, and they're going to lachzor. They're going to return. When we get to those different nations and who this nation could well be, we'll try to figure it out. Okay? Has to have both traits. Malagera, right? Mafras pasta shasasa. Complete split. What else? Birds. So there's a list. There's a list of birds, and it is a mesorah. It is a Masorah as to what makes a bird kosher. The Gemara does give certain simanim, okay, but it's very hard. That's why there's a big battle about this kind of chicken right now, we mentioned. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? It's not so simple to figure out. Not so simple, you know. We have tradition. Okay, there are some people who have a tradition in their family. I believe that one of the Rosh Yeshivas here in Yeshiva University has a tradition that he won't eat turkey. Now, he works for a Kashrut agency that certifies turkey. So he's not going to say it's not kosher. He can't say that. Having said that, still. Okay, what about fish? Fish. What makes fish kosher? Right. It's got fins, snapir, and kaskeset, and scales. Fins and scales. Does every animal with a fin have scales? No. Does every animal with scales have a fin?
Yeah.
Yes. Therefore, if you were to see an animal that's cut up, a fish that's cut up, and you see it's got scales on it, you know it had a fin. But if you see an animal with only the fin on it, like a shark, right, then it doesn't have scales. Therefore, the trait of scales does the job, right? But we say it must have both. Saying about both that it must have. It has to have fin, snapir, kaskeset. Right, snapir and kaskeset. Right, it has to have fins and it must have scales. It has those two traits. You can eat it. Yes.
I always heard that for birds, like you have to like see if they like hang out with like other kosher birds, or like if they're like
They hang out.
there-
Like,
how
when they go clubbing,
Is it-
like, hey, you turkey, I'm chicken.
is it,
No owls allowed.
is it like based on what the Torah says, like the birds you can't eat? Or
So
is there,
the
like,
Gemara does give various traits, but again, it's very hard. They say the way the claws are held. Some have 3 in front, 2 in back, attacking birds, and some will have 2 in front and 3 in the back. The Gemara does give various traits. They're trying to figure out, but even that's not a hard and fast rule. Even that, they need them as sorah, that we have tradition, this is kosher. Okay? Which takes us to insects. Insects. How about insects? What makes an insect kosher?
We also have another animal that is special.
that has a star?
The giraffe.
Ah, yes. Are giraffes kosher?
Yeah.
They most certainly are. Why don't we eat them?
Because we don't know where to shop.
Not true. Myth. I heard the same thing when I was a yeshiva as a kid as well.
Because we don't know where
We
to
know it. They're along it. You can check them because they're endangered and not very tasty. But if you're stuck somewhere, right, they know where to shaft it. 100%. Absolutely. They know where it is. One of the problems is when you try to bring it down in order to do it, it loses consciousness when you do it. Not do that. They know exactly where and how to shecht a giraffe. It's endangered. The meat's very, very tough. Okay, venison is kosher, deer is kosher, bison is kosher. Right, all these animals. My wife makes bison burgers. Delicious. Very lean. Very, very lean. Like a yak. Okay, insects. So pretty much all insects are kosher except the right, some kind of like locust, right? The chagav. The chagav is kosher. We lost the tradition. The Yemenites say they have it. Some say, however, that even though the Yemenites, as long as someone has the tradition, you can eat it. So there are some Ashkenazim who eat it. Is a chagav, is a locust kosher or not kosher? I'm sorry. Milchik or fleshik? It's parv. Yes. And does not need shchita. Like a fish does not need to be shechted. So my father-in-law is Israeli. He grew up in Israel. There was a locust invasion, and there was a Yemenite who lived in the apartment next to him, and they were entering inside. And my father-in-law says, I came out, and this guy sees me. He's like, "Oh, breakfast is here." Picked one up off the floor and went.
Without are you not letting like blood?
Well, there's no blood now.
The
The
rest
blood's
of
not
the
doesn't
bugs
be kosher.
aren't kosher?
What?
The rest of the bugs aren't kosher?
Not kosher. And actually, eating a bug halachically is probably worse than eating pig. Right? Especially a flying bug that walks and flies. Right? The Gemara in Makot, which I learned years ago, actually talks about it and says it's not so simple just to say that. Right. Okay, then we have the most. Yes.
Okay.
You have to talk up because I've got a lot of space between us.
You said that all insects are kosher.
Not kosher.
All of them are not kosher except for one thing.
that has the Torah tells us the Chagav, one form of locust. There's a tradition on it, one form of what's another word for it? Grasshopper, right? Is kosher. However, the Masorah is also clear, but there are those who say it is clear, and I've seen people eat them, like religious Jews eating a nice, delicious. By the way, you know what's really interesting now? By the way, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but it's true. I was reading an article online. Sorry, 1 second, Jordan. About like meat is going out of fashion now. Now there's lab-grown meat. You've seen this?
Yeah.
By the way, make no mistake. You give it 20, 30 years, it's going to be eating lab-grown meat only. It's good for the environment because all these cows that are out there, right? The amount of time and killing disease and the methane that comes out of it is what's destroying. Most of the ozone layer has been destroyed by all the methane, right? All of the gas, that's coming out of these animals. So I saw there's this company that, like, big companies invested. Google invested in, I think, or Bill Gates. Now, someone invested in these companies. So I wrote to them. I'm crazy, right? I found them online, and I wrote to them. I says, "Do you make a kosher brand yet?" Right? I assume they didn't. And I said, the kosher market's a big, big market. So what are they doing? They take one cow. Somehow they remove the genetic material. And from that one cow, that piece of meat, they can create tons of lab-grown meat, right? And they're saying that they're getting better and better at it. And literally, you take it to a burger and steak, you cannot tell the difference. You cannot tell the difference. They have taste tests with it all. So I wrote to them, so what will make it? So I looked into it. You take one of these cows, you remove the genetic material, and if that cow was killed kosher, all the meat that comes out of it is kosher as well. It will reduce the price of meat unbelievably eventually. That's a great, great question. It wasn't a compliment, I'm just telling you, it's a good question. Is it par or is it fleshig? I tell you something, it's not so simple. Because we know when it comes to various animals, when you basically reduce the animal to nothing, like bones, and then carry on further down the line, it may lose its shame of basar, may lose its status of meat. They're going to call it fleshig, I'm telling you. The Post's going to call it fleshig, but it ain't so simple, yeah. What? Yeah. The first one will be kosher, right? X. The one they have at the beginning, the X is going to be kosher, and then every other piece that comes out of it will be kosher as well.
That's like saying a kosher cow as a kid, and we're not shafting your kid.
That's actually a great point. Did you know that there is one type of animal that you are allowed to eat without shechting, or that dies naturally? There's only one case the Gemara gives, which is a real case that could still happen. It's called a ben pakua. Everyone call it ben pakua? Let's say you have a mother cow and you kill it, kosher, and inside it's got a calf, and that calf is alive. That calf does not need shechita. Actually, it's now kosher because its mother was shechted when it was still inside it. That's kosher as well. Wow, it's called the Ben Pakua. My friend wanted to open a restaurant called the Ben Pakua restaurant. Only these animals that were killed in a non-kosher way, and yeah. Yep.
What about all those foods that are technically kosher but don't have the OU symbol? Like if you eat them when they
Okay, so we'll leave aside. I can't talk about kashrus agencies. It's about food itself. All they're doing is doing you a favor and saying we checked it out, it's kosher. Yeah, that's what they're doing for you. You can't. Other food is or isn't kosher, right? Yeah.
So I was just wondering about like the locust. How would, because like the 7 laws of Noah, so you can't eat like a terror of a limb of a live animal.
Wow, that's a great question.
So
Wow, that's a great, great question. One of the mitzvahs of Bnei Noach is you can't eat the limb of a live animal. Some say that could be just for them, but we technically could, potentially. Right? But we just can't. We have to shach the animal as well. But actually they see it goes back to Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov, maybe that's how they ate animals, but that's not for now. Is that considered living live animals? That's a very, very good question. I do not know the answer to that question. I believe it will not have the status of basar of an animal for that, I guess. I guess. Okay, we're going to add to this, you can't eat the blood of an animal either. We'll discuss why, because dam here nefesh. But let's talk about probably the major area, which is the most strictest. Most people are not aware of this when it comes to eating kosher, and that is meat and milk. So let's do the last 10 minutes, stick with me. Let's just run through this, because basar b'chalav is the strictest area of kashrut. Basar b'chalav is the strictest area. You can do certain things with non-kosher foods that you are not allowed to do with basar b'chalav. Let's have a look at the 3 forbidden things when it comes to meat and milk. Okay? Number 1, lo tochal. You cannot eat them. Right? You cannot eat meat and milk that is mixed together. We're talking about kosher meat and kosher milk. Okay? If they are cooked together, you cannot eat them. Next. Lo tovashel. Right? You cannot cook them together. I'm not going to eat them. I'm going to be working in cookery school, or cooking school as you call it, and I'm just going to cook them together. No. You're not allowed to cook meat and milk together, even if not going to eat it. And 3, you cannot benefit, right? No hana'ah. Lo hana'ah, no benefit can come from it. Which means, I didn't cook it, and I'm not going to eat it, but I can't even sell it. I cannot make benefit from this as well. The most strictest. If you want to sell non-kosher meat, right, although the Gemara advises us not to get involved in the pig industry, specifically, working with selling pigs. There's the whole reason why something happened in history with a certain town that sold pigs for a living, kosher town, right? But technically, you could work. If you want to open up a non-kosher restaurant, knowing full well that no Jews will come, which in America would be very dangerous because there's Jews all over the place, right? Right? In Des Moines, Iowa, you'll find a Jew, in Tennessee, wherever you are. However, if technically you were to verify, then you could do it. You're allowed to sell them, but you cannot sell. You cannot sell meat and milk that are mixed together and get benefit from it. You get benefit with selling it, or feeding it to a non-kosher person, or giving it to an animal, even, by the way. Yeah.
What if you sell it separately, but like people can buy it together?
That's their decision. If they decide to combine it, that's nishtahin, nishtaher. That's their decision.
Can you do business with non-kosher places who sell the same product?
So that's a very, very good question. That's a very, very good question.
My boss is Jewish and he works with like places.
Right. That is a question for a posek. That's a tricky question. If you can get benefit, can you own stock in certain companies that do this? Generally speaking, we say yes. You can own stock of these things because you're really investing in the company. You're not actually selling it directly from that food. It could be some other thing. It's a good question. Good question. You need someone bigger than me to answer that. Yeah.
For the low tovashel part, is it like, let's say you open up a restaurant for the non-Jews, is it just the cooking it together, or like you don't
Just
cook
the
it?
act of cooking those two together.
So if it's not cooked, like let's say you cook the pizza and only then you're going to put the pepperoni on it. It wasn't
Now that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. I know someone who had a big business meeting. Non-Jews were coming, so he made a non-kosher caterer. Okay, no problem. He had a big thing in a stadium over here. All non-Jews were there. He knew they were non-Jewish, and he starts to make burgers, and they're putting cheese on the burgers. So he called up my rabbi, who's a posek, right? And he says, "I'm getting better from you." He started to freak out. Then what am I going to do? So he passed it over there. That is the mice of bishul, actual cooking it together. And this is a bit of a leniency. Putting cheese on the meat is a passive act. It's just kind of melting on top, and so he permitted it. Right? It takes a posek to do that. Right? The cookie says different to just like passively putting a piece of cheese on the burger. By the way, the real dorais. Oh, by the way, why is it so strict with this? Why is it so strict? Do you think? What's the rationale behind that? So it could well be that you're dealing with kosher food. Every kitchen, we don't have pig in our kitchen. We don't have eel, right? We don't have shrimp, hopefully, but we have kosher meat, kosher milk. So there are extra gedarim, the extra boundaries we put between it because it's so simple to. And we're so strict about this meat and milk thing that there has to be a separation between both. Has to be a separation between both. Why is there a separation? Please follow me. So I'm going to finish with this. You need to know this. Why do we even separate with time one for the other? And how long is the separation? So the Gemara says, Masuda Lasuda. There are some people who used to wait 24 hours. Right? The Gemara speaks about various people who used to wait, but that, from meal to meal. Well, how long is meal to meal? How long is Suda Lasuda? Okay? That is the question. And why? What's happening between meals? So there's Rashi and the Ramban. Rashi and the Ramban give the reason why you need to wait between meat and milk. But these are two different reasons and may have halachic implications. Okay? Rashi's answer is because the food, the meat, leaves a film of grease in your mouth, and you have the milk together with it, it goes down. So you talk about like the filmy layer of grease, right? That gets kind of like mixed up in your mouth because when you eat meat, it's leaving it there. And you have milk right afterwards, it's going to. The Rambam says no. There are little fibers that get stuck between the teeth. There's fibers between the teeth that get stuck there. The milk goes in and mixes up. So what's the waiting going to do according to Rashi and the Rambam? What is the waiting going to do? However long the wait is, we'll see in a second. Right, 1 hour, 3 hours, into the 6th hour, 6 hours, we'll discuss that in a second. But so basically they're both agreeing that waiting is now going to make this film disappear, this grease in your throat disappear, or the Rambam says the fibers that are there are no longer considered meat. They lose their status of meat, they're nothingness. They're nothingness. That's what the waiting is going to do according to Rashi and the Rambam. Okay? So how long do we wait? So halachically, the Zohar brings down, and others, that 1 hour is sufficient. And the Ramah brings down 1 hour as well. God bless you. 1 hour is sufficient. 1 hour is sufficient. Oh, by the way, this would apply the other way as well. Can you eat meat after milk? Yes. But if there is certain food that gets stuck between the teeth like the Rambam, or leaves a film inside your mouth as well, like meat does, then it would be a problem to have meat after milk as well. For example, aged cheese. And we define this supposedly as 6 months or more. Right? This is not the cheese in your fridges. But if you eat real cheese, like in France or something, but you have or Parmesan. Parmesan cheese, right, has been aged, which is why it stinks like it does, right? Can't bear the stuff, right? But that would actually categorize that you eat that, you have to wait, whether it's 1, 3, or 6 hours. Now, if it's been cooked and melted, there's a machloket. You can speak to your local Orthodox rabbi about that. If it's been like melted onto pasta or something. Okay, but eating it as hard cheese has the same effect. It gets stuck in your teeth. You've got the same problem. The meat goes in after the milk, it mixes together, and you eat meat and milk together. Alright? Nothing to do with digestion. Right? It's the eating of it that makes the difference.
That's what I was gonna say. You would think that after what we learned about Ramban, that like he talks about like health and like all of that, you would think that his reason would be like you can't eat it because of like a digestion.
No, it's nothing to do with that whatsoever. He says the piece of the teeth has to be a gap. So the Zohar, I believe, says 1 hour both. The Ramah brings it down. The other opinion is 6 hours. That's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. So Sephardim should wait 6 hours. 3 hours is among many people of German descent, and that's actually a much later opinion. 1 and 6 are really the main ones. 6 hours is really the main one. 3 hours comes from, they said in the winter time, between lunch and dinner, you used to have meat for lunch, and then milk soon after that. In the winter time, it's like 3 hours between it. So I think that's how it developed, something like that. Okay, if that's your family custom, that's fine. If that's your family custom, that's fine. Otherwise, the Ramah brings down 1 hour sufficient, but we wait 6 hours. You try to wait 6 hours with meat and milk, right? And vice versa if you have hard cheese. Or if you're like my daughter and you suffer FOF, fear of Fleischig, who refuses to eat cholent on Shabbat because I may need to eat a pizza. I'm like, who's eating pizza Shabbos afternoon? What are you talking about? Right? They're obsessed with not eating meat. They're scared of getting Fleischig. Okay? That's that. So we did insects, we did fish, we did birds, we did animals, and we did meat and milk basar b'chalav. Did we leave anything out? Jordan?
I just have a question. What's the reason for the 1 hour and the 6 hours?
So we're saying, so that's the opinion. Is how long does it take for these to go away, for it to lose its status? That's what they're arguing about. The discussion we based upon Rashi the Rambam. After 6 hours, the grease has gone, disappeared because of the grease, or the fibers are considered fibers over there. That's what they're saying. And that's based upon, that's a minhag based upon the community you're part of. Right? So everyone says you have to wait. Right? But they're trying to figure out how long is it from Suda to Suda, from meal to meal. That's what it comes down to. By the way, if you meet someone who starts to become observant, right, which I deal with in Jewish outreach, you could say you can start with 1 hour. Or start with 6, and you can work on the 1 hour is the basic minimum.
Can I go back to the fins and the scales thing?
Yeah.
So it says in the Torah that it has scales and has not fins.
That we know. Fins have scales, yeah.
Oh, but is
It's-
that from the Torah? Or is
And
that
that's
from
also
the-
scientific, I believe, as well.
Right. But
So, I mean, again, if you walk around a supermarket, you see a little bit of fish is cut off, you know, and you see it's got scales on it, you know it's got fins in it, so okay
yeah,
to buy.
for example, we don't know like everything that's in the ocean, and so we can say that like God is the only one that knows because He created everything.
No, you can see it's got fins and scales. That's a visible reality.
I know, but I'm saying we don't know all the animals are in the ocean. It's unknown to us.
Yes,
There's so much part of the ocean.
absolutely.
So like only God really knows that like there are no animals that have scales.
Oh, I see. There's never found one before.
What?
There's never found one.
Exactly, but like God said it, so it's like
Yes.
you can prove that like God knows.
Oh, I see. He says, well, okay, you can do that. That's what you need. Yeah, people do that.
That's what I'm asking.
I've heard that some people like brush their teeth in between meat.
Um,
What's the story?
No, will not help. They say if there are some fibers, you should take them out. There are some fibers taken out between meat and fish, right? You should have tachah paper. You should rinse your mouth out with like. That's why they always have like liquor, some harsh or some kind of food between that. But that's not to do with this. That's sakana, and they should separate them. That's why you're not allowed to have meat and milk on the same table at the same time, or you can at a distance, but you can have fish and meat on the table at the same time. That actually works, right? Because it's not for this reason. Yeah.
Can you repeat again about chicken?
What part of it?
Briefly.
So we said there's a Masorah. The chicken is a kosher animal. We've been eating it. So it's based upon tradition. That's what makes
Any
it.
chicken is
Well, if that chicken's part of the but part of the Masorah. Now there are some people saying no, this chicken is not part of the. I mean, there's many more varieties of bird, right? I mean, even the owl, like 50 times of owl or something. You know what I'm saying? So you're actually going for the category. So they're trying to figure out, are these other chickens part of the category or not? That's really, I believe, the argument happening, right? That's really what it's about.
I have a question. Into the 6th hour means that you only wait like why is that?
So there are some people who say like it's in the 6th hour, so they'll wait 5 hours and a bit, or the majority of the 6th hour, which is 5 and 30 something. My wife actually does that. She waits into the 6th hour. Because it says 6th, the Ramban says the 6th hour, some say it's in the 6th hour. So you have to enter into the 6th hour, which is actually the 5 hours and a bit. You're now in the 6th hour. You get it? Some people hold like that. I believe that to be incorrect. You have to wait full 6 hours, but yeah. And when it comes to children, when you have kids, once they start knowing the difference, you can start to increase the time between meat and milk for them. Right? You can go start with one, then move up from that point. Okay, that's how it works with children. Okay, see you next year. Shabbat Tov. There will be class on Tuesday.